Welcome everyone to Mental Wealth Talks with Nita Friendly. I'm one of your hosts, RJ, and today I am here with
Diondre.
and we are going to continue talking about the science of well-being. That's the course that we've been on for the past couple of weeks,
hmm
and this course is given by Professor Dr. Laurie Santos. She's out of
Yes.
Yale, so shout out the Y.
Yeah. Shout out to Yale.
And we're going to go through week 3 and go check
hmm
out week 2 where we talked about, the things that we think we miswant in life between money, love, happiness. You got to understand where your happiness is coming from. And this is where this whole course is kind of about. So, week 3 starts to discuss more about what these annoying features are, which there's going to be 4 of them that are
hmm
out there. Our miswanting really does lead into that because miswanting leads us through a path that we don't understand where our happiness is coming from. If you don't understand where your happiness is coming from, it's really hard to dictate that. So, with annoying feature number 1, it's letting you know that your strongest intuition is typically not right. And I can say I definitely think that for myself sometimes.
Yeah. For me, I always thought that making more money would definitely bring happiness, but I think we discussed this offline where we were saying at that moment you have that instant gratification. You're extremely happy, but then as you progress, you ask me months later, you're like, how do you feel? And it's like, I'm not really, that happy. It doesn't really make the difference. So that's where you kind of, circle back and, you really reevaluate what truly makes you happy. And I know earlier I had said family, and I stay strong. I'm sticking like strongly to that because again, I've made more money. Instant gratification. You see that check, it feels great.
Yeah,
Like I'm like, man, I'm gonna get me a new car. I'm gonna do all these things, and then it just it subsides, it just plateaus.
becomes normal. It's your day to
Exactly.
day.
Exactly.
We go through this sense of like, oh, I need to get here. Like, who are you doing it for? You're doing it for your family, right?
Yeah,
You're doing it
exactly.
to be with your family, to be with them more. But then you realize like you want that, but your body's telling you, hey, go this way, and you're like, but that's not what I want. But it
hmm
kind of is supposed to lead to that in some weird
Right,
sense.
right. And sometimes I even think about what life would be like if I went back to making less. Because, when you make more money, you really have more responsibility. And that has hindered my time with my family drastically.
Mm.
Back to when I was, a valet driver, I just worked my job and that was it.
Yep.
As you make more money, you have more responsibilities. You may work over the weekend, you're a bit more stressed. And then, of course, you have to, do this job so you can feed your family. But a lot of the times I think about what it would be like if I were back at, that less demanding job.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not saying I'm unhappy now, but I can definitely say that was a much happier time. I go into work, I park cars, I got cool, I
Mm.
get to meet people, and that's it. I'm done.
Punch in, punch
But
out.
exactly. But with these demanding jobs, as you go up there, man, it's like you're working and working and working, and then you look back and said, man, this is what I wanted. This is what I prayed for. This is what I said, man, this is going to make me happy. This is going to change things. It changes things, financially, where I could get the car. I'm happy just for that moment. But
Mm-hmm.
again, if you ask me months later, it's like, eh, you know what I mean?
Same old, same old.
Exactly.
I think we definitely miswanted, or we took certain topics
hmm
of like areas of our life that we think we wanted. Like there was times where we probably all thought we were in a relationship and we're like,
hmm
oh man, I wonder what it's like to be single. Or we
Yeah.
were single, we're like, man, I wish I was in a relationship. And then you get there and it may not be what you want. Obviously, that's going to take work because how
Yeah.
relationships are work, of
So how
course.
about you, RJ? Has there been something that you kind of like circled back and said, I thought that this would make me extremely happy, and then, months later it's like, I don't think this is the ticket, you know?
I, you know, it's hard because I would say like living on my own, which
hmm
I am 29, a birthday last month.
Living on your own would make you happy?
I thought living on my own would make me happy, and I experienced that for like a short like glimmer in my life. And I know because you're shaking your head for a reason. Living on your own is it comes with pros and cons. There's pros and cons to
Yeah.
everything in life.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that wow, me being away from home would be such a big pro that it would literally outweigh the cons of paying rent. we're in South Florida. It's like $2,000 for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath right now, you
That's
know.
what I'm
And
paying now. Yeah.
if you're looking for anything less, you know, just be ready to get what you pay for. So that, honestly, I think that concept was like kind of like driven into my brain, like, hey, move out at 18. Hey, you're gonna be buying your house at a certain age, and then I realized I want the same thing you want. I want to spend time with my family. I
Yes.
love my mom. I love my brother. I wish you could see my sisters more. They do live
Mhm.
on their own, but they have their family set up, you
Yeah,
know.
it's a never ending happiness that you're getting. I just feel like, again, I talk about money. It was like, oh, happy here, then it dwindled. And then maybe I go on to the next, career or job, and I make more money, and I'm happy again, and then
Mhm.
it dwindles. But spending time with your family and your family in general, it just never dwindles. It's forever lasting.
Yeah. And it gives you, I love being home because I think about it. Like,
Hmm.
I get to just roll up on my mom and say, hey, how are you? You know, and
Yeah.
just talk to her. My brother,
You eat good
yeah,
too, right?
oh, what? I do not have to. Shout out moms.
For real.
It's amazing. But, the part of the annoying feature is literally thinking that our brains are saying, like, hey, you really want this,
Mhm.
but that's just your intuition. It could be your ego. I don't know what it is, but it's thinking
Mhm.
like, I'm not happy right now where I'm at, so let me get somewhere where I am happy. You know,
Mhm.
it's kind of weird to feel that. And I
So
what?
how do you because how do you really train your brain not to, because it's kind of tricking you. You're
Hmm.
thinking that this is the one all be all to make me happy. But how do you tell your brain like, hey, back up, this is not it,
You
you know?
sometimes you got to try it. I haven't lived on my own, like owning my own apartment, but I did
Mhm.
dorm in college, my freshman year during the fall. And when I tell you I had roommates,
Mhm.
even if I was to move out now, I would still need roommates if I didn't want to kill myself. And let me say, some people are not as hygienic as you are, and
Yeah.
that is a big downfall, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So going through that, like, I got a taste of like living on my own. Yeah, there was the calf. It wasn't good as mom's food, but it was still there. Yeah, I had my own time. I could come in and out of the house. But then you realize, like, it's not like I don't think about my mom. It's not like I don't miss
Yeah.
my brother. It's not like I don't want to also kind of be where I felt home was at, you know. It
Mhm.
could be that too, but even now when I think about like moving out, if I had a mansion, I would put my whole family in there, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do. A lot of people are selfish. They'll get a mansion, say all to themselves. But
Mhm.
again, it goes back to what really makes you happy, your family. You
Yep.
you have the money, then you have a mansion, then where does it lead to? You bring your family in. It's about the family.
You either let your family be there or you're just going to have dust collect, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
dust is going to collect regardless, but at least dust is collecting with a purpose.
Right, right.
And I was really thinking that, there is just some parts in my life where I thought money was beautiful, money wasn't beautiful, like you said. This starts to come from like reference points, which is annoying feature number two. So your
Hmm.
reference points are literally the best. It's like kind of like the best indicator of where you're going. So you're asking like, how do we like get our mind out of that like kind of process of doing?
Hmm. Hmm.
The only way that I think we could do that is by addressing where our maybe like desires are coming from,
Hmm.
and also saying why.
Hmm.
Why do I want to be a millionaire? Is it because of capitalism? Is it because what I see on TikTok or
Hmm.
Instagram that there's some, I just watched a video this morning, there's some 10-year-old that's like, I did Airbnb.
Hmm.
What, an Airbnb? Like, oh my god,
And
that's crazy.
and for the viewers, RJ, for the reference point, are you saying it's someone that you may look up to or you refer to? It can be a person, a thing,
it
like,
Yeah, it's basically something like, okay, so in the course,
Mhm.
Dr. Laurie Santos, or Dr. Santos, just refers to herself. She wouldn't compare herself to Beyonce. So like,
Yeah,
don't compare yourself to Beyonce,
yeah.
but she would compare herself to like a colleague in her area, or in her field,
Mhm.
should I say? Like,
Mhm.
so when I think about my reference points, let's use the gym. If my reference point is Arnold Schwarzenegger, or I don't know, Ronnie Coleman,
Yeah.
I'm not juicing. I'm not willing to do the extreme and rigorous training that they went through. Even
Mhm.
without juicing, they still had crazy work ethic. And that is not something that I want to do. But if I look at my body, I'm like, hey, I got a lot of fluff here. Why don't I look like Arnold? Or why don't I look like Ronnie? That's my reference point.
Mhm.
But in reality, I can look at myself prior, in the years prior. I've also picked up the gym more. I started doing that. So myself should be my own reference points, or even my friends that are kind of like in the same wavelength that I am.
So would you say that a reference point is not, I mean, it sounds like it's something that you wouldn't want to compare yourself to that person. It's just strictly for reference. So is it a good or bad thing?
It's
Because
bad to have bad reference points.
bad reference points.
Correct.
Because how I see it, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. So I have two reference points in my career. Would be Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? And then of course, just as being a father would be my dad. Watching, me growing up, seeing him, he had a 401k, he retired, he helped pay for some of the college, he worked at a job for 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my reference point. But I think what you're trying to say is you only use it just as a reference, but don't compare yourself. You are your own person. Just use it as a reference. So it can be a good, it can be good, but it can also be bad when you start comparing yourself and, I guess, bearing yourself down because you're not exactly like that person.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you got to be happy with where you're at. That's the whole point of this course, is being happy, but also saying, hey, maybe you're not happy where you're at, but you have to see like what's your reference point. Because if you're unhappy and your reference point is like, I want to be like Beyonce, you're gonna have a lot of work to do. She started when she was young, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like us, we're in our late 20s and our reference point is, I don't know, our colleagues, our coworkers, we want to see how they're advancing as well, because we're maybe in the same field. And now if we don't want to use them as a reference point, we should use somebody that is at a base level. So let's go back to Beyonce. Maybe you want to be an artist. Don't compare yourself to Beyonce. Start going down lower and lower and lower, like to the real like bottom of the bottom, because in reality that's where we're starting. We're starting at level 1.
Maybe
don't
like
compare.
maybe like a Chloe Halle.
I think no,
Not even lower. So
even
maybe,
lower. Like local artists, like see who has under 1,000 like Instagram followers.
So I have to go find like some scientist that's like doing stuff in his basement.
I mean, honestly, that's how Dr. Huberman started.
Yeah, because I'm far away from Neil deGrasse, so I have to find or maybe because I'm going back to school, maybe a professor at the school.
A professor, yeah.
So in reality, your reference points can change.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
As you get up there, it'll start changing by the ranking. So they talk about like Olympic gold medalists, versus the silver and the bronze. So the gold medalist is like, ooh, look at me, I won the gold, like Then you have the silver with like the sour face, like I was just so close to being there that it kind of like makes you sour in a sense.
Yeah.
But then the bronze is the happiest one because he wasn't even going to be there in the first place. He just enjoys it.
And maybe I'm jumping ahead too much, but what about the gold? They got it. What's next?
They're
for
happy. This is just a completely like off the topic or off this course because they didn't bring it up, but I think it shows that after a gold medalist wins a gold, because a lot of them win it at a very young age, their happiness depletes because there's no other high sometimes after that. Unless you're like Michael Phelps, just getting gold after gold after gold. What happens when he turns in his 40s, And it's like, you would have to have some strong fortitude to not use your prior self as a comparison, because you're going to look at yourself and be like, I used to win golds. I used to work out so hard. I used to have all this, all that. But you have to look at where you're at now.
Correct.
And that kind of just does like a reset on your mind. Have you ever had to do that?
I'll be honest. Maybe I have, but I can't identify it, to be honest. Yeah. Have you?
With my body, for sure. Referencing, like, I'll take photos of myself, like body pics to see like progress, but referencing old Rayo to like new Rayo, there's a lot of changes. As we grow older, your metabolism slows down, so we're not burning through much. And I also have a different lifestyle than I did before.
Right.
I was on my feet a lot. I was a server, burning calories, moving all day, working doubles. Then there was a point where I was doing 2 jobs that really made my health like plummet, or like my weight, should I say, which was nice in a way. But now that I compare myself to somebody who works in a lab full time and now is a like entrepreneur on the side, I'm like, okay, well, this is my lifestyle now. I'm not comparing to Rael, who was 21, that was like balling.
Because things do change. And when you mention that example, then Yes, my answer is yes. That happened to me as well. Again, I used to work the valet. I used to run for cars.
Mm-hmm.
I used to even take mirror pics. But
Driving the foreign.
and now it's like, oh man, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I'm on the couch more.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the desk more.
Taking pics of the Pampers.
Yeah, taking pictures of the Pampers.
Yeah.
$100 a Pamper, but that's a whole other. Well, it's 2 for $100 at Target, and they like give you some gift card, like $30 gift. It's very expensive.
Wow, that's a
But
lot.
yeah, it is. But it's tough being a dad, and I did kind of lose myself. But like you said, you have to not look back, but look at your current situation and
Yeah.
say, things have changed. Of course, we're entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
We have this going on, that going on. So you can't really compare yourself now to than what you was back, previously.
Also,
yeah.
I think it leaves you in a point where you can understand where you're at now and
Mhm.
reevaluate what you may need, because what you needed 5 years ago might not be what you need now.
Right. Or even, just in general, what may have worked back then may not work now, right?
Yep, correct.
So that's where, even with losing weight, it's like, well, I've done it before. I've lost 30 pounds before. But again, that was at a different time. I didn't have a kid. I was working a different job. So now I have to try to figure out, the best way with to lose weight in the current situation I'm in. I can't compare it to back then.
Yeah.
Things have changed. Yeah.
With social media, I think that's also distorted our mind, which
Oh yeah.
yeah, of course.
Social media.
I didn't need Dr. Santos to tell me that social media is like messing with our minds
Messing
and
with us.
the expectations of what we have,
Because a lot of it isn't even real,
Yep.
RJ. It's not even real.
he's getting
So
passionate.
you're
Tell 'em.
comparing, you're comparing yourself to somebody
Mm-hmm.
that is putting on a facade.
Yep.
I'm not saying everyone, but it is so easy to post a picture
Yep.
and people think one way, and then it's like, man, I gotta be in that Hellcat like him, or I gotta, I don't know, like, oh man, look at all that money he made. Little do you know that that money that he has is from a friend that he borrowed just to take that picture or something. It's the flex.
It's your rent money that you're flexing. That's the crazy part, because honestly, like the social media, and that's why people need to take breaks from social media. Hop off. Don't look at these people who are like, oh my God, I use the filter so I look like this. Oh my gosh, I'm in the Airbnb, but you think that I'm always here, like this is my house. Like, come on. You probably took a bunch of pictures that 1 week you were in the Airbnb and now you're just cycling through them,
Yeah. And some of these people are the most unhappy people. So you look at social media, you're on Instagram, and you say, man, what I'm seeing, this is exactly what I want.
Yeah.
Little do you know, that person who, let's just say it's not a facade. Maybe they really do have the money, the cars, and everything. And you say, I want to be just like that guy, and this is what I want. Miswanting. That person is probably going through that phase where they realize that they're not happy.
Yep.
They're already in the miswant phase, and then you're scrolling on IG saying, man, that's what I want. And then, that person may be like, little does he know, this is not it. It's not. And again, like you said, you have to detox from social media. I know a good method for people that are heavy into social media. You have to have social media, multiple platforms. Just reduce it down to one at least, right? Get off the Instagram, get off the Snapchat. I think like teenagers use that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. TikTok, and maybe just stick to X or Twitter. I still call it Twitter.
Yeah.
Stick to just one, and then, try to cut it off for maybe like a week,
Man, you don't even see what goes on behind those lives too,
Yeah.
You could see the happy couple, you don't see that they're always arguing, so your reference points have to just be, like you said, your dad is your reference point for being a father. Cool. And even if your dad wasn't, or maybe you wanted a second reference point, it could be your friend's dad, like at least you know him.
Yeah.
You're not online seeing these dads like, yeah, I woke up this morning, I ran 5 miles, I fed the kids, I got into school, I rubbed my wife's feet.
And how does that make me feel? Like, man,
you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
You're not doing enough, man.
On the weekends, I get up real late. I make a 4-egg breakfast. And while this guy's taking her out to First Watch, somewhere nice and everything, and I'm here just making 4 eggs, then flip on the TV, let's watch this.
It's not it.
Yeah.
So honestly, once we start realizing like our lives are based around certain intuitions, certain social comparisons, now we start getting into like these last annoying features, which is like 3 and 4, and they're very similar. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say them right now. Like number 3, from my understanding, not what the course says, but my understanding is number 3 is like hedonic adaptation. That
Mm-hmm.
means that you're getting used to positive or negative stimuli. So in
Mm.
a easier way to say it is like our minds get used to things and we get used to stuff. So
Right.
that's an annoying feature number 3. Annoying feature number 4 now it's the fact that we don't know we get used to stuff. So you're getting used to things, used to things, used to things, but then you don't also remind yourself like, hey, you're gonna get used to it, you
Yeah.
know?
And if we go back to number 3, you become immune to these it was negative what was it?
It's a process of becoming used to like positive and negative stimuli.
Right. So with the negative stimuli, what we're saying is that you kind of get used to it, you become numb to it, but you have to kind of tell yourself, I guess, to snap out of it. But I think that's kind of a difficult task. If you're so immune to it and used to it, how do you really know that you're immune to negativity? I think of someone that may, be in an abusive relationship or something. They're so used to it that, all men are like this, or this is natural. This is something that,
Horrible.
this is something that just happens. That's just what men do. That's what happens in relationships. And then you have an outside person telling you, okay, yo, that's not okay,
Yeah.
right? So I think maybe even takes an external or some person outside, another perspective to kind of take you out of it. What do you think?
I think definitely having somebody else tell you that like it's not, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, like the person could tell you and it doesn't really stick. Like they have to open their mind to the thought of like, okay, well, why do you think this is normal? Well, I think it's just normal. But
Mm-hmm.
what happens if it's not normal? What if do you like it? You have to ask them like, do you
Yeah.
enjoy that?
Yeah.
No, I don't enjoy abuse. Okay. So what would happen if you did not get abused? That's when they switch into like number 4, which is like, oh, we have to break up. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, but if I break up with them, I'm going to be so sad. I'm going to be so miserable. I'm going to feel so alone. My life is not going to be the same.
You're already projecting what your life would be like
Exactly.
when you don't really know. Again, it all goes back to looking back, well, not looking back in the future, looking into the future and
Mm-hmm.
saying, wow, I was abused. I realized this isn't making me happy. Then I was asked, what would it look like if I wasn't abused, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're saying, they might break up or something. And then with the breakup, they're saying, I'm going to be so sad. I'm going to do this. And then
Yeah.
you look months later and it's like, I'm way better, way better,
Correct.
or this isn't as bad as I thought. So it's about breaking that. Yeah.
It's the fact that we're creatures of habit. So
Yeah.
the fact of us running through, oh man, where I got so used to the abuse,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I'll get so used to being alone.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the same things, You got used to one positive thing or negative thing, you can get used to a positive,
Right. Right.
And even if you're going through a season of negativity,
Mm-hmm.
you're still being able to like get out of that because it's a
Right.
tolerance. You're building that.
Now I want to shift into, because you're saying that you have negative stimuli that you get used to, right?
Or
But you
or
or
positive.
positive stimuli that you get used to. If you're used to positive stimuli, I mean, isn't that a good thing?
Not
Not
always.
always, right?
Oh, dude, I am positive stimuli tolerant to buffets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that even makes sense, but when I go to buffets, I eat,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because the concept of my brain is saying buffet, all you can eat. The more you can eat, and the
Mm-hmm.
more you eat, the better you'll feel. The more happy you'll feel. And I'm a food guy, so I think me getting 6 plates of steak is gonna be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna lie, the first 2 are pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
After 4, it's like, what am I doing?
I see. So it almost seems like
More just I'm sorry, but more
yeah.
does not mean better.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they say like less is more, like
Mm-hmm.
that's I think like what they mean of like you get used to things. So like if I give you an ice cream sandwich every hour on the hour, you're gonna be like, it's not as good, bro. Like
Right, right, right.
it doesn't make me hit the same.
So the positive stimuli, like you said, you like going to the buffet. So
Mhm.
these are things that make you happy or are positive for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the negative are things that, of course, are negative. It may not necessarily make you happy.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
it's like
positive, the more you get of the positive won't mean you'll be more happy. There'll be a baseline of happiness, You'll eat the steak, I'm a 7. Just because I keep eating steak doesn't mean I'm going to always be at a 7.
Right.
And the more
right.
steak I eat doesn't mean the more happiness I'm going to get. The negative is like, oh man, this is going to be horrible. This is going to be this, but you tolerate it. You don't realize that you're just tolerating that, you know?
I see. So for me, I guess the positive stimulus is Chipotle.
The more Chipotle?
I eat that every day.
Sponsorship by Chipotle.
So when I eat it, I'm at a 10. And that's it. Should I break that? Should I break that
if you eat it every day?
And Camilla, she's the camera woman behind. She said I lost weight, so I'm not gonna stop eating Chipotle every day.
I think you should.
She said I lost weight.
Do the trial. Try eating Chipotle for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and see if that is still your like.
And then I make a documentary.
You could,
like the McDonald's guy.
The McDonald's guy. I don't even think people talk about him. He died.
Oh.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P. McDonald's guy. But here we go. Leave it in. You said R.I.P. The main thing is like you're chasing this dragon. So if you were like, man, Chipotle, I gotta just get more Chipotle, man, and you're not always gonna get that same high. Like you're not always gonna get. Now, what I'm saying is that like if you had Chipotle every day for lunch, you're like, this is my favorite meal. Chipotle. Perfect. But now if I start incorporating, hey, how about you eat 2 bowls instead of the 1? You're like, whoa,
yeah.
It's a lot, you don't want to eat all that.
Yeah,
I'm not. Start feeling full.
Yeah.
But with this way of us getting like, I would say like used to things and like positive or negative, the more we get doesn't mean the more we'll feel or the better we'll feel.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like it's kind of like I want everything, but I don't, at the same time.
Right.
Because then you get everything and you're like, wow, I wanted none of this. Back to like a little bit of miswanting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really part of understanding that our bodies and our minds get used to certain things.
Right. And I think the same is true for money, as I mentioned before.
Correct.
Relationships, and just life in general, especially relationships too. You might get used to things in a relationship and not realize that how can I say it? Like you get used to things and then you might compare and yeah.
Like in the marriage, Dr. Santos shows an image that says just married and it's a happy smiley couple, and then the next image says just ... married, and they're just like, so that just shows like after 2 years.
After 2 years. Oh, okay, so it's a comparison. So when they first got married.
Yeah, that honeymoon lovey-dovey stage.
Yeah.
And then after being married for 2 years, it's like, okay, we're kind of back to normal, but that's when people think, oh my gosh, I fell out of love. Oh my gosh, this relationship is boring. Oh my gosh. But in reality, you were just riding that high from the marriage or the ceremony, and you're like, okay, and this is amazing, and this is the same thing all the time. And that's when we start getting used to things, even the positive stuff. You get the Hellcat. How many times can you get in the Hellcat and be like, oh my God, I'm in the Hellcat?
Well, I mean, that's a bit different. But
2 years later, you're still in the same Hellcat.
No, listen. But here's the thing. 1 second. So if let's just say that's something that that will that's miswanting.
It is. It's part of it.
But is there a side where you want something and you actually get it and you're like, wow, okay, this really does make me happy. Every time I get this Hellcat, I'm happy every single time. It's possible. Yeah. But I guess what we're saying here is, like maybe 9 times out of 10, it's not.
Not really. It's just that you can't base your happiness on the Hellcat and always like thinking like this is going to be the same exact feeling every time I get in here. Every time, for some people it is. But for a lot of us, it seems like we're in this journey of like, what's my happiness? Where is it coming from? And then when I ask people like, hey, like, well, what would make you happy? Oh, if I had $1 million, you have $1 million for a year. And it's like, it's just $1 million, For the people who don't have it, it sounds amazing. It sounds great. Again, miswanting because our social comparison, but we don't understand that when we get there, it's not the same effect, and that's okay. If it makes you happy, that's happy, but it's not the same happiness when you drive it off the lot.
And what I notice is a lot of the miswanting is with materialistic things. So
Yeah,
right.
or like body image too, like because I thought I would be so much happier when I was skinnier. There
Mm-hmm.
was a point that I got skinnier and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm too skinny. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
weird to say, but I did not like my body then.
Mm-hmm.
But in my head, if I hit a certain weight, if I looked a certain way, I would be happy. When I got there,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't happy. So
Right.
that's where you have to say like, what are the reasonings behind my happiness? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Because listen to this. I want a car to be happy. I want money to be a car. I want money. I want money. I want a car to be happy. I want
Yeah.
clothes to be happy. Right? All materialistic.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you start saying things like, I love to help people,
Yeah.
and that makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
I love my family. That's
Mm-hmm.
what makes me happy. You
Yeah.
see the difference there?
Of
So I
course, those
think
are genuine. You
yeah,
know?
I think a lot of the more like non-materialistic things is really generally what makes people happy.
It could be like
'Cause even people,
egotistical.
there's even people that run businesses. Shout out to the Pokemon community
Mhm.
because those guys,
Pikachu.
yeah, I'm telling you, look at that community. One of the best communities. And I'll keep it short because I don't want to nerd out. But they run businesses and sure they make money, but what makes them the most happy is being in the community and helping people out. So what they'll do is they'll, ship out orders and they'll throw in an extra free, card, or maybe it's
Yeah.
little Timmy's birthday and they give them a special card. That's what really truly makes them happy. The money is great, but the non-materialistic things typically make people happier.
I think that's for sure because sometimes you have to invest in experience, not in material.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in a consumerism type of environment, capitalism, So we were just talking about this prior that, everybody thinks they want the big house and the mansion and the 6 cars outside.
Yeah.
But that person could be just as happy as the farmer who's living off the land, spending every day with his family, just growing his stuff, eating his food. Like, not knowing where your happiness is coming from is a problem, and also not understanding what your true happiness will entail. Because again, if you gotta like kind of like pick up, okay, if you're in the Hellcat every day driving it and you're happy for the next year, good choice,
Yeah.
amazing decision. But if you're like, yeah, I need this because I'm gonna be the shit, I'm gonna be amazing, I'm gonna ball out, people are gonna think I'm fly, and then after 6 months you're like, damn, the new Hellcat's coming out, I need that because I'm gonna be fly, I'm gonna be, and it's like, whoa, I
just
thought you
keep
were
that Hellcat
Yeah.
because that's what you wanted, and that's
what you wanted, right?
What made you happy.
And some people get the new iPhone, that makes them happy, but again, this is just material, this will
Yeah.
break. But if that breaks, is that where like, oh, my source of happiness is gone? No.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thinks like that.
You'd be surprised though. You know, like a lot of people.
This is my iPhone. I wanted this so bad. This is what's going to make me happy. And then it cracks, and they're like, "Oh, my happiness is done. It's over." They just get a new one.
I think that's what the mindset of like materialistic people, because they can't like, oh, I need to get a new one. I need to get. What if it's just a little chip? No, man, I need the perfect one because that makes me happy. And it's like you're gonna spend the $150 just for that. Like, hey, to each their own again. But it's about evaluating more of where your happiness is getting from and understanding where are you deriving it from. If you're a materialistic person, go and buy the iPhone, go and buy this, but don't be upset when you realize you have nothing but materials around you. You know, don't be upset when you realize like, man, I wanted to spend the money on the Hellcat instead of going to Hawaii, and now you realize, oh man, 2 years later, you look back and you're like, man, I still haven't gone to Hawaii. Shit. Oh, well.
Yeah, I would have taken the Hawaii
Of course,
trip.
it's an experience.
Or, even, there's different trim levels. Get a lower trim level. Go a lower trim level and go to Hawaii.
You're right. Yeah, and that's where you have to compromise with yourself and say, hey, this is only going to give me temporary happiness.
Correct.
My main happiness isn't built off this, and it's kind of, I'm not saying that all car people are only like that. But again, like people who are into cars as a hobby, as a passion, that's beautiful because they enjoy that. People who get it to flex or to like, oh, like I'm this or I'm that because this makes me happy. It's a surface level happiness,
Yeah.
Tell me how your relationships are with your family, your friends. Tell me how your work ethic is. Tell me how your bank account looks consistently, not just when you get paid. That's the part where it's like, what is real happiness? And hey, if that doesn't make you happy, okay, but you got to know that, and you got to be okay owning that, because when you turn around, you're going to be old and unhappy.
Yeah.
My back is sweaty. Now, leading more into like, I guess like annoying feature number 4 is going to be saying, we get used to things, like we've
Of
been saying,
course.
like we've been talking about. One big one that stood out to me was like AIDS diagnosis people,
Hmm.
when they say like, hey, I think we talked about this earlier. Did I bring this up?
Yeah, so they the moment they found out that they have AIDS, they feel like it's the end of the world.
Correct.
They maybe depressed,
Mm-hmm.
unhappy, and then you circle back maybe 5 months later or so, and they say I'm just fine, or it's not as bad as I thought it was. And again, we kind of discussed this earlier in this
Yeah.
podcast, and that happens a lot. You think it's the end of the world, and things just kind of fall into place, and it's not so bad.
So, like the big thing was saying like, you're gonna go through these phases in life, which are ups and downs,
Yeah,
ups and downs, ups and downs. It's to remind yourself when you're really up, this feels amazing, but when you're really down, you're gonna get out of this again. Just like the
yeah,
same way, it's the roller
yeah,
coaster. It's life. Some days it rains, some days it's sunshine. And even today, look, it rained and it's sunshine at the same
yeah.
time.
It did.
So we could have sat here and be like, man, it's raining. It's going to rain all day. Man, and it's like, hey, even
Yeah, it's just Florida too.
it's
It's
Florida,
weird.
but it comes out, and that's us learning to look forward instead of just focusing on this one moment, so not to always live in the future, but to understand that this is only temporary and not forever.
Yeah, I kind of had my moments where I would say like everything like kind of fell. It definitely during COVID,
Mm,
like I was in the polio line, and then that's when I got the text and they said the casino is closed, and
wow.
it's like damn, like I literally have no money. Like now I'm being cut off. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nothing, right? And then I forgot what else happened after that. I think like my car gave out or something, car
Hmm.
problems.
Just
And I
hitting
said,
you
"Yo,
all
this
at
is
once.
terrible."
Bakata, bakata.
Then 5 months later, I'm chilling on the couch. I'm
Back
spending more
up.
time with my family.
Back
I'm
up.
getting unemployment.
Back
At
up.
that time, it was like 2000. They're giving the stimmy,
The stimmies were
and
hitting.
they're giving something else. And I just went thrifting.
Yeah.
Thumbing, well,
Index.
not finger, like thumbing,
Yeah.
fingering.
Thumbing.
Cut that out.
Going
Thumbing,
through.
going through clothes. Look at it, pick it out, and I started thrifting. Started
Yeah.
reselling on eBay, Macari, Poshmark,
Hmm.
everything you could think of, and I was up. I
Yeah.
felt great. And mind you, the whole house was out of work. My
Hmm.
dad was the only person working, and that was his last year before retirement.
Oh wow.
All of us were in the house. We were cooking up eggs, everything. Like
Hmm.
that was the most time I spent with my family.
Wow.
So an unfortunate time to be in. It was starting out. Months later, one of the best times.
Yep.
Even this in this month, or yeah, it was this month.
Hmm.
My Beamer gave out, and I was like, $20,000 for a new engine. I'm like, man, like I don't even know what I'm going to do. But things fell into place, and I got that Challenger.
Toretto.
Yeah. But things do happen. It pours, and in that moment, you're sad, you're depressed, you're like, man, I don't know, I'm going to be unhappy, and
Yeah.
then, you know, just later you'll just be fine, and that's how life is.
It's the roller coaster, and we have to be okay with that, because as much as we talk about happiness, we know
Mm-hmm.
happiness is just kind of like a state, like a current state, like, because just like sadness, just like anger, it will slowly dissipate and
Yeah.
leave you.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
understanding what that true underlying joy and content out of life is, that doesn't mean that you're content because you're settling. That means that you're genuinely happy with the things that you have,
yeah.
relations, families, how you are as a person, what you're doing with your life, having purpose, and all these little features that we talk about. Some people may be like, oh, that I don't have that, I don't do this, I don't. Well, that's amazing, because that means that you're on a higher spectrum of happiness. But if I just
Mm-hmm.
said that and you're like, oh, I don't have any of that, but I'm not happy, check yourself, because that's the realness, right?
Yeah,
Saying you say you don't have any of those things, but at the same time you're not happy, because a lot of us say that.
So has there been a moment where you had your downs and you thought everything was over, and then maybe months later, maybe a few weeks later, everything was fine?
Man, honestly, there's too many to recall, because I am a drama king sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
um but I would say like maybe me getting me I'm trying to think of a proper way to say this.
Take your time.
I was advised to move out of my dormitory, and not against my will, like I did it, but
Mm,
I was forced to leave my dormitory. For what reasons? We'll talk about it later. But
mm.
at that point, me getting kicked out of my dorm, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm getting kicked out. It's only freshman year. I didn't even make it to spring, and my mom's gonna be so upset.
Mm,
I'm gonna be a failure. Oh my gosh, my college career is down the drain.
mhm.
I'm never gonna get anything. And then boom, I moved back home. I actually got my room got converted into an office. So I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell? So I came back, but I enjoyed it. I had a good time. Like you said, I was with family. I was more connected, and that actually like pushed me to get a car
And
because
you
now I
save
became a
money.
commuter. Hmm?
And you save money.
And I saved money, yeah, not on dorming. So it was a good experience. That was when I was younger, and I would say something more recent. I quit my job because I quit my job in 2021. It was just
Mm,
so stressful, and
mhm.
I was like, you know what? I know this isn't what I want to do as a career. I'm gonna quit. I had some savings. I had some credit cards. I ran through them both, and there was a point where I was like, man, I'm 4 months behind on my car note. My
Mhm.
mom is telling me like, hey, Repo Man's gonna come through and get it. And it's not that she was wrong. It's just that I was going through so much in life personally and trying to grow out of it that pushed me to get a job, to look for opportunities to make money that wasn't the standard. Hey, go
Mhm.
and do something that you're not gonna be happy with. And
Yeah.
it brought out the hustle in me. And I think I had quit my job in June of 2021, and by June of 2022 I already had a new job.
Yeah,
I
you
was
up.
yeah, I
You
was
up.
up. I
Yeah.
started in the field that I thought I wanted to be in at the moment, so that was making me happy.
Yeah.
you know that was the part where I was like, wow, life is just gonna like give you opportunities. So just remember, there's gonna be opportunities when you're down. I decided to quit my job. I decided to leave, and I put myself in that situation because I was so unhappy.
Right,
But
right.
just because I quit, and after I was like, yeah, I'm vacationing. Once the money ran out, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm just
And then you
Ubering.
realized when you was unhappy, you
Yeah, and
was
I
able to
realized,
break out on that
oh,
yourself.
yeah, I'm not making money. I don't have any clear path in my life or direction. What is it that I wanted to do? But that opened the door for me doing self search, and understanding more about myself of like what I want out of my
I
life.
like that self search.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, I don't know if we have time, but what was that like for you? That self search.
Oof. It was me traveling to different parts of, not different parts, because I go to New York all the time. My
Yeah, yeah,
family's out there, but I went to New York and I was like, hey, I'm gonna buy a plane ticket whenever. I'm going there with a one-way ticket. I don't know when I'm coming back.
yeah, yeah.
And then I went to Colorado. I saw my sister. That was great. Then I came back to Florida. I thought I was gonna move to New York. I was going to music festivals, still having such a high out of being outside of work. When they say that people with no jobs literally have the best lives, they do. They
Yeah,
trust me, we do.
yeah.
It was amazing. So that was such an amazing time in my life, but I still knew like this isn't gonna last forever. This isn't gonna
Exactly.
last forever. You're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to find something. Right now, it was just like move from where you were, which was a job that I was like, this is not it. So I moved,
Mhm.
and I had to keep moving through different phases of my life to understand, oh, this is where you want to be. I wasn't making money. I did Uber and DoorDash for a little bit. I
Yeah.
made money for like 3 months, and then I was like, I need a real job. No dissing to people who are drivers, but if you could drive and make a living, beautiful. But if you're driving and not making a living and still killing yourself, you got to find something different, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because it's tough.
It
I
is tough.
mean, yeah, I've done. I did maybe like 3 or 4 Uber rides before,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like,
It ain't it.
this isn't for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just doing that, like you got to keep trying things until you reach something and you're like, oh, what is it? I wanted to be in the cannabis industry because I enjoy cannabis, and I'm like, wow, that's the field that I want to get into. I really thought that when I got into the field, I was so happy. I thought, man, this is gonna be great. This is high of highs, literally high of
Mhm.
highs.
Mhm.
But I got the job. A couple months later, it just became another job. Then after
Yep.
that, I realized, oh, okay, that's all right. I've been here before where I get something, I realize that it's not what I want, so I got to pivot and go somewhere else.
Yeah, when anything becomes it's a job.
Yeah.
But when things you really classify something as a job, then that's not it,
Mm-hmm.
because and we, of course we're in it together, cannabis industry, and I started off, it was like a high euphoria.
It's cool.
Even even when I was,
do you get to test the samples?
yeah. Or even when I was like managing at that time, I had 13 people. It was great.
Yeah.
You wanted to go into work. People were excited. And then, I won't get into all of it because it's but things happen, because at the end of the day, it's a job, it's a company,
mm-hmm.
and they do what's right for the company, of course. And then after that, it was just like, yeah, this is just a job. This isn't like, some party to be happy at.
Yeah.
Even though that's what it felt like starting out, then it really became a job. And
I think we get stuck in the mindset like, this is where I'm at, so I'm stuck here. Like, this is just like flat. Like, you're on this plateau and that's it. Okay, but in reality, it's like stepping blocks, or stepping stairs. Like, where you're on one stair, okay, cool. You can take the other step up, like you can. And just because you take a step up doesn't mean you're going to make more money, doesn't mean you're going to have a better relationship, better body, whatever it is. A step up just means somewhere that isn't on that step,
Right,
it could be a step up. A step up was me quitting my job. Some people will look at me and be like, that was a step down, bro. Why did you do that? But in my mind, that was a step up from where I didn't want to be. Even if I had to take that other step down, it was still not on that step,
Right. And, maybe when people say that, they mean, I guess they mean it money wise as a step down.
Yeah.
Or they may not necessarily know what your step up entails.
Yeah, they're
right?
afraid. They're like, are you okay?
Yeah. Like, you can go from one job, you make the same amount, and then go to another, and maybe you make a little bit less. A lot of people will say that's a step down.
Yeah.
But maybe for me, that's a step up, because this job was very stressful. I thought this is where I stay, demanding, and I go here and I'm, way more happier. So that's a step up for me.
And it's beautiful because you got to go, if you don't at least do that for yourself, like you got to go, sometimes you have to put yourself in hard situations to understand, is this what I want? And is this what I want to do? And if not, pivot, go somewhere else, try something different. And we all go through that. That's the whole point of life. Because if I would have never quit the job that I was in the office, I would have never had that sabbatical for like 6 months. I would have never gone broke having so much fun, putting myself into such a deep financial hole that I was like, I got to do something. Go to doing Uber, realizing I want to do cannabis, realizing I got into cannabis, and then I got to get out of it, and still finding something better, which is, life coaching, mental wellness, mental health. Like, I love that. And but I had to go through all of those options, and it all started by me quitting a job, which was amazing.
And if you never did,
if I never did, I would have sit there and I was getting paid nice, I was making what I made 2 years ago, what I'm making now, 2 or 3 years ago. I'm sorry. So getting that new job and starting at $15 an hour was so like, it hurts your heart, but at the same time, you're like, remember, you're not going to be here forever. This is just one starting point, and the next step is to come, as long as you're willing to take it.
Exactly.
And honestly, I think that's an amazing way to end the podcast. Unless you have anything to say, do you want to share some stories?
If I share stories, we'd be here forever. But
Big Papo.
But what I will say is, like you said, kind of like how you soul search, or
self search.
Well,
soul search?
No, I was getting there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was saying, just like how people soul search and try to find that person for them, you kind of have to search for your happiness too, and evaluate what truly makes you happy, because you can be misguided. It can be the wrong thing that makes you happy, and then next thing you know, you're like, wow, this wasn't it, until you have to really find that true thing that really makes you happy. So
it takes work.
I think one last question before we end, and I'll start it off. So my true happiness, of course, is family, and the next one that I have up is to help people in the academics. I want to be a professor, and it's not for the money, because they don't get paid anything. Adjunct professors don't get paid anything unless you're a tenure track, like the old man that's been there forever, did research. So I'm not even doing this for money. It's on a little bit of money. They get paid maybe $3,000 per semester, almost nothing. But I love to lecture, be up there, talk about science.
Yeah.
So I know that's what makes me happy, and I can help other people too.
Good.
So I want to ask you, what is there something that you're seeking for your happiness? Like, I want this, but and you know for a fact this is what really makes you happy?
Freedom.
Freedom.
USA, freedom, America. Just because of the fact that I want to have freedom of the time that I have, my management of that time. I want to have the freedom financially to make choices that are within means. I don't think I need a milli.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, RJ, but you see what you said there? I want freedom, non-materialistic.
Oh yeah,
that's the main point.
Yep.
I said I want to be a professor, but with that I want to help people,
of course,
have people learn, non-materialistic.
I'm
telling you, it's the non-materialistic stuff.
It has to be.
But go ahead.
No, that just makes you happy. That builds what your foundation is. Because if I can strip you of the Hellcat, of the clothes, of everything, I'm talking about literally strip you down to just your being. What is there, and what does that person want? No materialistic things. What is it that you want? And I did that, and I realized, like, wow, freedom was so amazing. The freedom for me to have
That's interesting, because you said strip down everything. If you were to strip me down, like, let's say we're back in the day. I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones.
No, I don't. Still, they probably do.
Like the maesters, they're kind of like the doctors and the people that study plants and things like that. They help the king. Like, he might have a rash, and they're like, you can use this special plant, this does this and that. Do research, or be a teacher. If you strip me down, I would still want to teach.
Good.
Forget the money, everything. That's what I would want to do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, that's what you are at your core. You got to know what is at the core. And if you don't know what that's the core, then start trying different things.
But if we strip you down completely, what does that look like?
I mean, freedom, joyous. Like, what do I want out of life? Really, freedom in specific, just because I feel like that comes with so more. But I enjoy helping people as well. That's why we chose. To do things like this, which is to talk to people, to give them different perspectives, different insights, because people could look at us and be like, they don't know nothing. And it's like, you don't know where we come from, hey, I have probably not the most nicest life, but not the worst life. But at the same time, like, we're still humans at the end of the day. You and me could relate on so many things, but we've both lived very different lives,
Exactly.
And that's the part where it's like, hey, I want to help people by giving different perspectives and just uplift people, and that starts with uplifting myself, of course, but I want to uplift people, and you taught yourself, so now you want to share that with other people.
Exactly.
And I think that's just bringing it full circle and being like an actual, like, what's the word, contribution to society, know, instead of just saying, I do nothing but for myself. It's like,
okay. What is life if you're not contributing to others and helping others? And that's a whole other topic.
Nobody's born alone. So thank you guys so much for watching week 3 of our podcast about the science of well-being with Dr. Laurie Santos of Yale. Go check out her podcast. I believe it's called the Happiness Podcast. We'll add the links below. Go check out COURSERA.
It's completely free too.
Free 99. You don't pay nothing. Chipotle, we will get that sponsorship at some point.
Soon.
Don't worry. But we're going to come back next week for week 4. And salutations, honestly. Thank you so much for watching till the end.
I'm Diondre.
I'm RJ.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace.